Hi, Rachel.
Oh, hi, Janine.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. And yeah, I want to get you to just share a little bit about your journey and dive in because you've been on a journey in terms of making a huge career transition. And I think it will be really inspiring for people to hear, given like where you started to like what you've been able to achieve in months. So
Yeah.
do you want to start by just giving a bit of your background and just introduce yourself?
Yes, yes. Well, I'm Rachel, and I'm a trademark attorney, and I've been one of those for 20 something years. Um, that's what I've done for all of that time, and that was always fine. And yeah, and I've worked in, international big, humongous law firms and smaller practices as well. And my journey was all fine, and I just thought I'd do that forever, until I didn't want to do that forever anymore. And
Mm,
then, um, which was probably a culmination of all sorts of things, including the pandemic, but perhaps I'd have got there anyway, who knows? But the last few years, it's been on a bit of a, um, I don't know, I just wasn't enjoying it so much.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, so we're in September. I was at the end of financial year, which would have been March 22,
mm,
and was unwell because of the stress and the sort of, you know, targets and just the sort of mania of working in a really, really busy practice. Um, and promised myself that I would not do another not do another end of financial year like that, basically.
mm.
So February, March 22 was a low point for me, and yeah, and I was losing my hair, and really, really sort of unwell with
Wow.
the craziness, and and my employer didn't really care about that, so it was the icing on the cake, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna get through this one, and then I'm gonna do something about it. Um, and you and I first spoke in about April, after the end, literally after the end of financial year. I sort of like took a breath after that. I was like, right, right, where's Janine? And I'd seen you on, I'd found you on LinkedIn, and you kept coming across my sort of feed, and I was like, okay, this sounds like it could be the thing for me. So, and I then signed up with you. We started in May, I
Me?
think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I thought maybe I needed not to do this job anymore. So I thought, let's see what else I can do. And well, I mean, it was an exhausting process in itself in a good way, but
Yeah,
my
it
God,
was.
really,
It was a
really
process.
tiring. Yeah, for sure. So we started with, values, and let's find out what are the important things and what things I need to lose. And we got to sort of, I need to lose, well, this end of financial year thing, but actually sort of billing targets and all of that. So I looked at, oh God, we looked at all sorts of things, but trying
Mhm.
to move out of this area entirely. And I really enjoy, working on counterfeit goods, or anti-counterfeit goods, I suppose. Um, and we looked at that, and all sorts of different things. And in the end, I came to the conclusion that all of the jobs like that I was looking at would end me up in the same, a similar place,
Yeah.
working 5 days a week, probably having to go to an office 5 days a week, and all of those things that I was kind of pulling back from. Um, and yeah, and we sort of plodded through our weeks, and it's really like pulling my hair out, sort of, well, whatever might have been left of it at the time. What on earth am I going to do? And then somehow during the process, another option came up, which was, a consultancy, to work in a consultancy sort of law firm, which is essentially a fee share arrangement where I can, be my own boss, um, but still have colleagues and still have the back office and the sort of support side of things. And I thought, okay, well, maybe that maybe that could be a goer. And so my first, after, you and I finished in about, I don't know,
June, July,
September,
August, September.
October.
Yeah. Yeah.
I resigned in September, and I signed up with this consultancy. It was a new sort of startup consultancy just for trademark and patent attorneys. Not so common in our area, so
Mhm.
it was a new thing, and I thought, okay, let's give it a go. And I was quite excited about that. And then so I left my job, in my what will probably be my last employment at the end of December 22,
Yeah.
and joined this consultancy. And well, what's hilarious about that is that by the end of week one, I knew that that was not going to be the answer. And very quickly, I didn't like. I've always worked for people, so I'm used to it. It's not that I can't work for people or with them, but I didn't like the way that they worked. I
Yeah.
didn't. The fee share was also not fair, and um, so I started with them in February 23. And by March 23, I decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore. But what it had done was introduced me to the fact that I now work really for myself.
Yeah.
I can attract clients on my own. I know, right? Um, and and actually, is it that difficult to set up, all the things I was scared about, like
Mhm.
the insurance, the back office, the support, the other stuff, the accounts, like the stuff that goes with, having your own business,
Yeah.
um, was the stuff that I was really shying away from. The work I can do, the clients I can attract, if I mean, albeit that's a roller coaster on its own, but I can do all of those things and I have confidence in all of that. It's just the other side. So I mean, yeah, the cold consultancy thing ended in a sort of a mutual agreement to part company, which we did finally at the end of May this year.
Yeah.
And when I say finally, it took not very many months, and all the while in the background, I was sort of setting up my own thing. Um,
Yes.
and I launched my own business on the 1st of June.
Woo, woo. Do you know how exciting that is? Because when we first started talking about different options, you had said that you would like to work for yourself, but it was kind of a like, oh yeah, I'd love to work for myself one day, but it was one
Mm.
of those like throwaway, like,
Yeah, and it was way too big,
yeah, way too
way too big.
big. Like I'd love to do it, but I don't think it's possible type of
Mm,
like options.
mm,
And so to just see the journey for you to get there and go
mm.
from that to like, I see you popping up on LinkedIn every day. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
look at her just out here promoting her own business, going from
I mean,
being unhappy in your role to like doing your own thing in your own way is just like
mm.
so good.
Well, because actually, having done, I'm not being sort of flippant or arrogant or anything like that, but I'm confident in my ability to do my job. And it turned out that I prefer to, I know how to do it, and I know how clients like to work with me. And that's not for everybody, but I'm confident in that side of things. So why not do it my way? And then they're happy and I'm happy, and I can, I've got room and time for everybody, and it's just, well, including myself actually, and my
Yes.
son. And this was a big deal. And I was telling somebody yesterday that the sort of one of the memories of the end of last year was sitting where I'm sitting now. I was on a call like this with my boss. I was cooking a bolognese over there on the hob. I was feeding the dogs. My son was coming in, the house and doing whatever he was doing, and I was sending an email. And all of those things were happening at the same time, and I can't have been doing any of those things properly, which I wasn't. And it was so stressful. I didn't
Yes.
work particularly long hours, but just when the hours that I was working, which was a sort of standard working day, were so intense.
Yeah.
Um, and I just wanted a different approach. And no, I had absolutely no idea that I could do it on my own, um, or that I wanted to. Okay, I might have said I wanted to. Maybe that was a bit of a pipe dream. Really didn't know if I really wanted that or not.
Yeah.
But what's happened is, people often ask me, do you miss the office? Do you miss your colleagues and stuff? Well, no, I mean, I still see my colleagues, so that's okay.
Yeah.
I still talk to people, and I've got loads of people that when I need to bounce something around, I mean, I
Yeah.
just find one.
Yeah.
And also, what's really surprising, or shouldn't be maybe, but people sort of flocked to support me as soon as I launched my business, my own, but not the consultancy one, because people weren't
Yeah.
that interested. But all of a sudden, I launched my own business, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Particularly women.
Hmm.
And I had a call yesterday with a German lady that I worked with back in the day at Bird and Bird, and she set up her own business. She left there to set up her own business,
Wow.
and she got in touch. I mean, yeah, I mean, we've seen each other on LinkedIn, but over the past few years, but that's all. And she got in touch, and we spoke yesterday. And she said, I'd really love, I've got a UK, person that I use, but and it's a man. And she said, I'd really love for it to be a woman. So I'm gonna, and then this is how it's gone. And it's I mean,
Oh, this
not
is so
only
good.
women, but women have been really sort of really supportive and really just sort of
Yeah.
championing the
Oh,
whole thing.
this is so good.
It's a
So
delight.
I'd love for you to like back up a little bit in terms of the
Mm.
process, because you mentioned a little bit like, like our weekly calls, and it was a painful process. But can
Yep.
you talk more about what aspects of going through that process really helped you to get to the place where you even considered the consultancy as an option? Like, how did you find going through it, even though at times it felt painful?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that I don't mean, I always showed up. I was never going to not turn
Yeah,
up
yeah,
or
yeah.
anything.
You
It
definitely
was
showed up.
painful, but I know it was a good pain. I just had no idea that it would be quite so exhausting, sort of
Mm,
like doing my homework, thinking about what, I don't know, things that we discussed. I mean, we started with values and sort of, personality traits and all of that stuff. I mean,
yeah,
that as a starter, if you did nothing else, that on its own is a massive eye opener.
yeah.
Um, Not that I couldn't tell you those things before, but probably not really sort of express them in the same way,
Yeah.
or focus in on them and realize how they impact my work sort of
Mm,
requirements,
yes.
if you like. And all of, applying sort of my personality traits to what I actually need in life out of a job was a new thing for me. And
Yeah.
so it's completely eye-opening. And also having somebody to sort of push you outside of your comfort zone. That
Yeah,
makes me cringe now.
I was like, come on, Rachel, we can do it.
Yeah, just reach out to these people and ask them questions. I'm like, I can't, and I'm still like that actually. I'm still I'm still having to talk to myself about that. But um that was really useful. I did have conversations with people, um, and all that they did actually, in my case, as it happens, was to show me that I don't want
Hmm.
those options. Um, I looked at various things. I spoke to some people at GlaxoSmithKline and this kind of things. And do I want to go and work in an organization like that? And in the end, I didn't like
Yeah.
I didn't like the feel of it. I don't really know what exactly, not them or the company or anything, just didn't like the feel of what that was going to be for me. Um, and we also, the other thing I tell people about this all the time, because we looked at my CV,
Yeah.
the same CV that I've had for 25 years, that one, with a little bit of update. And and you said to me, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can see that you've you did this job and you did that job, but what did you do? What did you do? I'm like, what do you mean? I did that, what it says there. And my CV, and then we redid it. Um, and what's fun about that is that I was looking at it the other day for inspiration for LinkedIn content.
Hmm.
I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving, right?
Right?
Yeah, I
I love
mean,
that.
yeah, I know, and all of these things, and none of these things I knew. I mean, I help people now to do the same thing. I've got some like students that I'm helping and stuff, and I'm like, think about this on your CV. Think about this when you talk to people. I
I
like
love it.
that, yeah, channeling my like inner Janine.
Paying it
Um,
forward. This is what we
you've
like.
got to pay it forward. You have to pay it forward. I mean, this is it. But none of those things, even I've had a job for a long time and I've applied for lots of jobs and I've interviewed for lots of jobs and I've done lots of jobs.
Hmm.
And I had no idea how to approach this kind of next move choice,
Yeah.
you know, and it all seemed really obvious in the end. Like
Yeah.
now
You're like,
I'm
oh,
like,
why didn't I
oh
think of
yeah,
that?
yeah, 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 I see. But you can't just think of it. Some people might be lucky enough to, but doing the process, it's really weird because you just think you always knew. I think I always knew those things about my values, or I always knew that that's how it, but you don't always know, and I didn't know, which is why
Yeah.
which is why I had to do the process.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. I love that. Even you just saying like I was looking at that for LinkedIn content. Like I'm sure we had conversations about, getting out there and like using LinkedIn, and your
Yeah,
initial reaction was like, yeah, absolutely. It was kind of like, you want me to post stuff on there? Like
yeah,
post.
yeah.
Now you're like, I need to think
Three
about
times a
content,
week. I
right?
know. Oh God, and it kills me because I have to keep coming up with stuff. But
But it's so
but
good. The stuff that you
yeah.
post is so good. And like
Wow.
it pops up on my feed. I'm like, oh, okay, Rachel, I like this.
Honestly, I mean, it's tough to keep churning it out all the time, and sometimes I'm inspired and sometimes I'm not so inspired. And I have to sort of go back to basics and remember what the point is. And it's
Yes.
it's quite it's an interesting thing actually, LinkedIn, and how I'll think that a post will be really well received and no one cares. And then the next
Yeah,
one that I think is rubbish, everyone's like, yes, absolutely. It's so
absolutely.
weird. The weirdest place. Anyway, it's quite an experience that in itself. But yeah, all of, and I pick up our the I don't know, the values sort of document,
Hmm.
and the personality traits, those documents fairly often, and go back to remember,
Yeah,
because and I'll never lose that is something that I mean, even if you didn't end up changing jobs or didn't end up whatever, I mean, that in itself is a little nugget of joy for sort of
yeah,
onward development and just in life.
yeah.
um,
So good. And one of the other things too is the like going through the process with other people.
oh,
What I've loved to see is that like I spoke to Mimi a little while ago and she was just
I
like,
spoke
yeah,
to
me and
Mimi last
Rachel were
week.
chatting, and I was like, oh, I love that you guys have like
Me and
formed this
Mimi just
friendship.
did we just did a I just did an interview for her blog about trademarks, which should go live this week, I think.
Okay, this is the blog that she also in the program was like, oh, I'd love to do a blog one day.
Yeah,
She's now launched this blog.
yeah.
I've had like two clients that have read the blog and like have become clients because of this blog that didn't exist before. And like
Oh wow.
this is just so like amazing.
Yeah. And what I
So good.
said to Mimi when we were talking, this was last week, I think. Might have been the week before. Might have been the week before. Um, we both sort of commented on the fact that the last time that we'd spoken on a call, on a Zoom call, we were sort of like, oh God, no, oh God, I can't do this. Just It's just so stressful, and kind of really down and stressed, and hating life. And there we were, like really kind of loving life and happy, and things all going great. And
Yeah.
it was really noticeable to remember back to what we were like. I remember, she probably remembers what I was like, but I remember her being really sort of down and
Yeah.
stuck.
Yeah.
And she not only changed her job, her actual day job, for a fabulous, highly paid job, but she launched her blog too. And that is a little gem
Yeah.
of the Janine process.
I love
So
it. I
many
love it.
gems.
It's just and that's part of the reason why I like to do like a group program is so that you have the opportunity to go do it, but like
Mm,
have other people who are going through it as well. Because like you say, there are moments where you're just like tearing your hair out and being like, is this even going anywhere? And then going
yeah,
from that to actually seeing the result of staying the course. Because like you said, you showed up even when it was like, I'm not in the mood, I'm showing up anyway.
never in the
Um,
mood.
never in the mood.
No, I mean, it's really difficult. And when you're in that sort of state of hating life, you've got to go to work, or show up for work every day as well.
Yeah.
Um, that in itself is really draining. And then you've got to try and find this little bit of space in your head to think about this process as well.
Yes.
But I always knew that it would, I had no idea what would happen, but I always knew it would be a good thing.
Yeah.
I just had to keep showing up and keep doing the homework and keep
Yeah.
like pulling my hair out and finding this, this stuff for my CV. I mean, and when you have somebody to pull all that out of you and just sort of hint at, well, what did you do? What did you do in this job? And I found all my CV is now littered with all of these like fabulous things that I've done,
Hmm.
that are really interesting, that sound interesting. I mean, I don't need to give my CV to anyone anymore, sadly, but
Yeah.
like I said, it
But you
serves
reference
another
it.
purpose now,
Yeah.
and I can, those are examples that I roll out if I'm talking to clients or prospective clients or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's not lost by any means. It just sits there. I mean, maybe I will need a CV one day, but
Yeah.
it sits there as my history of, to remind me of some of the like fab kind of work I worked on.
Yeah. So, so good. Oh, I love it. So let me ask you this. If there was someone who's watching this and saying, like, they're either on the fence about getting support or joining our program, like, what would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
Well, if they've come this far and watched the video, then they already know that it's going to be good. I think to trust it. You said to me before, well, you would say to me probably every week, to trust the process. I'm like, yeah, right, keep rolling it out. But of course, I did trust it. I always trusted it, even when I didn't trust it, if you know what I mean. And I
Yeah.
didn't know, I couldn't see round the corner. Um, just try, because I didn't end up where I expected to end up. I didn't know, well, I didn't really know, but I didn't
Mm.
expect to be working for myself in, 12 months on. But having looked at all the options and, well, having done this sort of strange little journey to get here, that's what happened. And that can only have happened with your help and with the clarity that came from the course.
Yeah.
I would say take the plunge, just try, because, well, there was like unhappy me 12 months ago, and now there's happy me. I mean,
Oh,
what else could you really want?
exactly. Like hearing you say that, because I know where you were. Like it was you were not in you yeah, you were not in a great place. And so to hear you say happy me and like
Mm.
actually be enjoying the work that you're doing now, like that is just gold. It's just gold. So I'm beyond excited for where you take this. Like you've just started and there's
I'm
like
so early. It's so
infinite
new.
possibilities. And I love that you're networking with people and that you're putting yourself out there. And it's only up from here. But the fact that you get to like shape it how you want to shape it and even disrupt the industry, like no more billable hours and all of that.
Mm.
I'm like, Rachel is flying the flag. Like, let's
Well,
go.
and this is from somebody who I have shied away from business development for my entire career because I
Mm,
hated it. It really was a really unenjoyable piece of my job, and I barely did it because I hated it so much. And then
yeah.
I realized that it doesn't have to be standing in a room full of stiffs in suits. That
Yes.
and I didn't. I think the world's also moved on a bit, and I think the
Yes.
legal profession has moved on a bit. So, but I was very much stuck in that city um, sort of mentality,
Yeah.
and this it just opened my the whole thing just opened my eyes to what else, another way that I could do things still. And actually, I suppose the upshot was that I realized that I didn't hate my job, which I thought maybe I really did.
Yeah.
Um, it's just I hated doing it the way I was doing it.
Yeah.
So I found another way to do it. And I get to choose how that is. How
Yay.
cool.
So good. So excited. So thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for trusting me and guiding me through
Mm.
the process. And yeah, thank you for coming back and sharing your story because I have no doubt it's going to inspire some people to actually like do something differently because you never know what happens. You might own your own business in a year's time. Like, let's do this.
You just don't know. You don't rule anything out. And if I can help if anyone has questions or would like to chat or anything, if I can, help anyone, then please send them.
Oh, I will do. I'll tell them to hit you up on LinkedIn, seeing as you hang out there all the time now. So
This is my life. So yeah, no, exactly. If they're in two minds or they want to chat, sort of offline
Yeah.
about it, and then very, very happy to share.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, thank you. Forever indebted.